What's up, people? Chris, just back from watching UFC 134 Rio, and despite what a friend of mine who texted me immediately after the event said, I thought it was a really great event, really entertaining, particularly the pay-per-view portion of the card. I didn't see the first fight on Spike. I'm not really going to talk about the Facebook prelim. Nothing stood out to me too much in particular there. No disrespect to those guys. So just the main card itself, Lewis Kane, first fight of the night. First off, the crowd definitely... obviously, it was pro-Brazil, and fortunately for them, their fighters, all did well for the most part tonight. So rather than, kind of bring the atmosphere down, they were able to maintain that level of excitement and intensity throughout the event. But anyways, back to Lewis Kane, Stanislav Nedkov. It looked like Kane was going to win this one. He seemed to hurt Nedkov early and seemed to have him on his back toes, but... he was getting hit by that right from Nedkov and just kind of got caught. Nedkov hit him with a 1-2, shook him. The way Kane tried to get away, the way he kicked the cage, that was hilarious. If you put some blooper reel music to it, it'd look even better. But yeah, Nedkov was smart, jumped all over him and finished him off with strikes on the ground. So good UFC debut for Nedkov and a bad loss for Kane. Not just that he lost at home, but he lost against an opponent by strikes that he should have beat in that realm. Ross Pearson, Edson Barbosa. Actually, I believe that Shab Nogueira was next. Shab Nogueira, obviously, this is a fight that a lot of people wanted Nogueira to win, but weren't sure if he was. I actually favored Shab going to this fight, but the old man comes through, for the home fans. I was worried because he wasn't able to have any success getting the takedowns during the first round, and he looked a lot slower than Shab, not surprisingly. But he showed some good boxing skills, which he still has. Even though he's slower, it's obvious he still has good technique at the power stance, and he was getting shook, it looked like, when he got hit, which also wasn't a surprise, but fortunately Brendan Schaub doesn't have much of a chin. Schaub's a good athlete, but he's just a guy that hasn't been fighting that long. His chin just isn't used to getting hit, especially by bigger guys, and it's just not very durable, and we saw that in the Roy Nelson fight, and we saw that again here. So Nogueira hurts him with the right hand, jumps all over him, and finishes him off with a beautiful technical knockout. A great win for Minotaur Nogueira. It's good to see him. Who knows how many more big fights or big wins he has in him, but so it's good to see him get one last big one, at least in his home country, no less. Ross Pearson, Edson Barbosa, a good fight. Pretty fast paced for the most part, but in comparison, the rest of the pay-per-view is pretty slow. Even though it went 3 rounds, I thought Barbosa would be a little bit more successful with the kicks. He didn't use nearly as many leg kicks as I thought he would, but for the most part, he got the better of it. I thought Pearson put some good hands on him inside. When he was inside, but just couldn't get close enough, or often enough. So, for the most part, I thought Barbosa got the better of it. I was surprised to see Pearson get one of the scorecards. No big controversy, though, because at the end of the night, Edson Barbosa deservingly gets the win. The thing is, when I first saw this guy debut, I thought maybe this is like the 155 version of Jose Aldo. I don't believe so. He's a very explosive striker like Aldo, good strikes, but he just doesn't have as much power or isn't as dynamic as Jose Aldo, at least not yet. Co-main event of the night, rematch between Shogun and Forrest, obviously. I thought Shogun would win this fight. Thought he'd come in better shape in this fight. I don't know if he was, but he definitely was a lot less injury prone. Who knows how the fight would have went different if it would have went the distance, because it didn't. Both guys were opening up pretty much, just swinging, going toe-to-toe for the most part. But it was Shogun that got the better of it. I kind of missed the first right hand that hurt Forrest. I was in a sports bar, so I kind of didn't see it. I couldn't tell how hurt Forrest was until his legs kind of went up from under him. And once he was on the ground, Shogun was all over him. Shogun, you can look at his record and see that he has a lot of finishes. It obviously goes to show that he's a great finisher, but whenever Shogun gets a guy hurt on the ground, he almost always is going to finish them off. And he had one of the best displays of using hammer fists in this finish. Just hammer fist after hammer fist right on Forrest Griffin's chin, bouncing his head off the mat, somewhat similar to Forrest's loss to Rashad Evans. And the ref steps in and waves it off. Mauricio Shogun, who gets redemption, back at the winner's circle. Don't think he's in a title shot just yet next, but he's definitely back in the hunt. And I would love to see if Rampage loses to John Jones next month, like I at the moment I think he will. I would love to see that rematch between Rampage and Shogun. And, of course, main event, yet another rematch. Middleweight champion Anderson Silva successfully defends his title against Yushin Okami. The first round, As Kenny Florian was saying, in the most part for the commentary, it was more a feeling out round for Anderson Silva. Anderson Silva, if you want to compare him to like a boxer, I know he's not as he gets spectacular finishes, like the one against Vitor Belfort, for example, but he isn't always a guy that goes for the kill. He's more, if you watch boxing, he's more Floyd Mayweather than Manny Pacquiao, if you want to compare their styles. But in this fight, the first round, he was more Floyd Mayweather. I'm sorry for non-boxing fans that are getting this analysis. But the second round, he was more Manny Pacquiao. Well, a combination of both. But man, in the second round, actually at the end of that first, he threw that left high kick that caught Okami. And luckily for Okami, it was the end of the round, or maybe not. Because in the second round, Anderson Silva just came out aggressive, came out just looking like the fighter that we want Anderson Silva to be every time he fights. The fighter that fans know he's capable of being. The fighter that when he is on like that, when he wants to put on that type of performance, there's no doubt in my mind that he is the best pound-for-pound fighter in the sport over Georges St-Pierre. Georges St-Pierre can beat guys, he can dominate guys, but he does not have the ability, in my opinion, to really just humiliate and finish guys, regardless of the level of opposition that Anderson Silva showed in the second round of this fight. He was just toying with Yushin Okami. I mean, it was almost embarrassing for Yushin Okami the way he toyed with him. It was like a lion with its prey. Just showing that he was light years ahead of him in the striking, in the movement. And when he just stood there with his hands down, Okami went for a jab, he missed, and Anderson fought him with that jab, knocked him on his ass, pretty much just humiliated the hell out of him. The place I was at, everyone's going crazy, first of all. But from that point on, you knew it was over, and it was just a matter of time. Pretty much took Okami's spirit, most likely, his fighting spirit at that point, and just gave Silva the confidence to know he could finish that fight at any moment, which he did shortly thereafter. Hurt Okami again with strikes. Once he was on the ground, I wasn't for sure he was going to try to finish him off. He knocked him down because in the first round, or was it early in the second? I don't remember exactly. He had knocked him down and he kind of let him get up. But this time, he went for the kill and he was pretty precise with those finishing strikes. Once he got on top, he was actually pretty deadly, man. He went for a vicious knee to the body and some elbows to the body when Okami was down, something you don't usually see fighters do often enough. And he didn't land that knee to the body too clean, but if he had, I mean, that thing was a killer. That thing would have really took it out of Okami, but it didn't matter because Anderson finished him off with the punches to the chin, to the dome. And Herb Dean rightfully waved it off because Okami, if you look at his face at the end of the fight and just his expression, he was done. And, of course, the crowd goes wild. Brazil goes wild. And Anderson Silva goes wild, you know, and rightfully so. Great performance by a great fighter. And a great event, particularly in the main card, you know. 4 finishes, 3 in the first round. And even the fight that went the distance wasn't a boring fight. So just a really spectacular event. You know, the event was like 2 hours, just like the last UFC. UFC events have really been on a roll last couple of UFC pay-per-views and UFC on Versus. So I'm expecting more of the same, hopefully next month at UFC 135. But this was a really, really solid event. And they really give the Brazilian fans a real good show and a reason to come back in droves, even more so to help build the sport there with that kind of performance. And Shogun and Anderson Silva showed in their rematches that they are the better fighters than the guys that had previously beaten them, Forrest and Okami, respectively. Anyways, that's it for now. I'll be talking about these fights and more on tomorrow's Science Science Radio Show. Link in the information part of the video. As always, we'll link to my Twitter and scienceadvice.com. Want to hear your guys' thoughts on the event? If you enjoyed it as much as I did, which fighters or fights were you most impressed by? Were you surprised the way, not only that Nogueira won, but the way he won? And what did you think of Shogun and Anderson Silva's performances? That's it for now. I'll be back, who knows, sometime soon. But until then,